Welcome to True Crime Case Files, where we delve into the most shocking and perplexing crimes from across the country. Today, we take you to Leavenworth, Kansas, a seemingly quiet, conservative suburb. But behind closed doors, one woman's secret life led to a grisly murder that left the entire community reeling. This is the story of Deanna Andrews, a devoted housewife, whose hidden affair with a neighbor's teenage daughter ended in a tragic and violent death. Deanna Andrews was 32 years old and the picture of a perfect Midwestern homemaker. She lived in Leavenworth, Kansas, a quiet suburb known for its conservative values and close-knit community. Her life seemed like something out of a family sitcom: a beautiful home, a loving husband, and three lively triplets, Carlin, Castle, and Kingley. Deanna was heavily involved in the community, especially at her children's school. She volunteered for every event, from PTA meetings to bake sales. Deanna was also active in local charity work, often organizing food drives and fundraisers for families in need. Her kindness and warm personality made her a beloved figure in the neighborhood. To the outside world, Deanna seemed to have everything. Her husband, Ryan Andrews, was a successful corporate lawyer, known for his work helping major retail companies to find legal loopholes to open their stores in third-world countries. The family often attended church at Union Lutheran of Leavenworth, where Deanna led a Bible study group for women. They were the kind of family you'd expect to see on a Christmas card, smiling and picture-perfect. But beneath the surface, Deanna was struggling. Her marriage to Ryan had grown cold and distant over the years. Ryan's demanding job kept him away from home for weeks at a time, and when he was home, he was often preoccupied with work. The couple's once strong bond had weakened, leaving Deanna feeling lonely and sexually unfulfilled. She began to crave excitement, something to break the monotony of her everyday life. In early 2018, Deanna found that excitement in a most unexpected place: her 18-year-old neighbor, Cassidy Morris. What started as a friendly mentorship, with Deanna teaching Cassidy how to, quote, act like a good Christian lady, soon turned into something much darker. Their relationship quickly escalated into a secret sexual affair, with Deanna becoming increasingly obsessed with the young woman. She was captivated by Cassidy's youth and energy, qualities that Deanna felt she had lost over the years. This affair became Deanna's escape, a way to fill the void left by her crumbling marriage. In the days leading up to her death, Deanna's behavior became more erratic. She withdrew from her usual activities and became more possessive of Cassidy. It was clear to those close to her that something was deeply wrong, but no one could have predicted the tragic end that was about to unfold. On the morning of September 5, 2018, Ryan Andrews walked into his home in Leavenworth, Kansas, after a long overnight at the office. It was just after 8 a.m., and the sun was already shining brightly through the windows. The house was eerily quiet, which was unusual given that his three children, Carlin, Castle, and Kingley, were normally up and getting ready for school. Ryan expected to find his wife, Deanna, bustling about the kitchen, making breakfast, but instead, he found the kitchen empty. Ryan called out for Deanna, but there was no answer. As he climbed the stairs to their bedroom, a sense of unease began to settle in. When he reached the bedroom door, he noticed it was slightly ajar. Pushing it open, Ryan was met with the scene that would haunt him forever. Deanna was lying on the floor next to their bed, naked with a pool of blood around her head. She had been shot to death. The room was a mess. The bed was unmade, furniture was overturned, and shards of broken glass were scattered across the floor. It was clear that a violent struggle had taken place. Ryan stood frozen for a moment, his mind struggling to process what he was seeing. Then panic set in. He rushed to Deanna's side, desperately trying to wake her, but it was too late. Realizing she was gone, Ryan grabbed his phone and dialed 911, his hands shaking as he tried to explain to the operator what had happened. The 911 call was frantic. Ryan's voice was barely controlled as he told the operator that his wife had been shot and that she wasn't breathing. The operator tried to keep him calm, but Ryan was clearly in shock. When the police arrived a few minutes later, they found Ryan sitting on the floor next to Deanna's body, his face pale and his eyes wide with disbelief. He was taken outside and placed in a police car while the officers secured the scene. News of Deanna's death quickly spread through the neighborhood. Neighbors who had seen the commotion began gathering outside the Andrews home, whispering to one another as they tried to make sense of what had happened. It wasn't long before local news stations like KCTV arrived on the scene, cameras rolling as they reported live from the quiet suburban street that had suddenly become the center of a grisly murder investigation. The Leavenworth Police Department arrived at the Andrews home within minutes of Ryan's 911 call on September 5, 2018. Officer Hugh Patinsky, a 15-year veteran known for his calm demeanor, was the first on the scene. He quickly assessed the situation and called for backup. The quiet suburban street was soon filled with police cars, their lights flashing red and blue, cutting through the early morning calm. Detective Olga Wandel, a meticulous investigator with a reputation for solving complex cases, was assigned to lead the investigation. As the officers entered the home, they were met with a chaotic crime scene. The bedroom was in complete disarray. The bed was unmade, the mattress askew, and several pieces of furniture had been knocked over. The broken glass on the floor suggested a struggle had taken place. Deanna Andrews' lifeless body lay on the floor next to the bed, a gunshot wound to her head the apparent cause of death. Blood had pooled around her, staining the beige carpet a deep red. Detective Wandel surveyed the scene with a practiced eye. She noticed the position of Deanna's body and the nearby objects, making mental notes of everything. The scene told a story of desperation and violence. Deanna's face showed signs of a struggle, with bruises visible on her arms and legs. The room's state indicated that Deanna had fought hard against her attacker. The murder weapon, a small handgun, was found on the floor near Deanna's body. It was quickly bagged as evidence, along with the shards of glass and several other items from the room. Forensic specialists, dressed in white coveralls, methodically combed through the bedroom, dusting for fingerprints and taking samples of the bloodstains. They photographed the entire scene, documenting every detail that could later be used in the investigation. Outside, Officer Patinsky interviewed Ryan Andrews, who was still in a state of shock. Ryan explained that he had found Deanna's body when he returned home from work early that morning. He insisted he had no idea who could have done this to his wife. As the questioning continued, Ryan's answers were slow and disjointed, reflecting his disbelief and grief. Detective Wandel, while sympathetic to Ryan's emotional state, knew that time was of the essence. The first 48 hours after a murder were critical, and she was determined to gather as much evidence as possible before any leads went cold. The investigation was just beginning, but the scene in the Andrews home had already provided several clues that would guide the detectives in their search for Deanna's killer. Cassidy Morris, the 18-year-old neighbor and the first suspect in the investigation, was well known around Leavenworth, Kansas. She was a bright and independent young woman, set to graduate from Leavenworth High School that month. Cassidy was popular among her peers, known for her rebellious streak in a town where conservative values often dictated behavior. She had recently been accepted to the University of Texas at Austin, where she planned to study environmental science, a passion she had developed during her years volunteering at the local animal shelter and participating in climate change protests. Despite her vibrant exterior, Cassidy's sexual relationship with Deanna Andrews had taken a dark turn. What began as a mentorship quickly escalated into a secret, passionate affair that left Cassidy feeling increasingly trapped. Deanna, who initially acted as a guide for Cassidy in navigating the expectations of their community, soon became a possessive and controlling sexual partner, often asking Cassidy to experiment far beyond her comfort zone. Cassidy's friends noticed a change in her behavior. She had become more withdrawn, avoiding social gatherings and skipping her usual hangouts like the local Starbucks where she and her friends would often meet. When Detective Olga Wandel and her team brought Cassidy in for questioning, they were particularly interested in her sexual relationship with Deanna. The detectives knew that Deanna's possessiveness could have been a possible motive for murder. Cassidy's reaction during the interrogation was telling. She appeared nervous, fidgeting with her hands and avoiding eye contact. Detective Wandel asked Cassidy about the nature of her relationship with Deanna, and at first Cassidy was reluctant to say much. However, as the questioning continued, she admitted that she and Deanna had been involved in a romantic relationship that had recently soured. Cassidy described how Deanna had become increasingly erratic in the weeks leading up to her death. She mentioned how Deanna would often call her at all hours of the day, demanding her to drop everything to have sex with her. Cassidy also revealed that Deanna had threatened to expose their relationship if Cassidy tried to end it. These threats had caused Cassidy a great deal of stress, and she had started to feel suffocated by Deanna's constant need for control. When asked where she was the night of the murder, Cassidy claimed she was at a friend's house, studying for final exams. The detectives noted her alibi but remained skeptical given the tension in her relationship with Deanna. Cassidy's nervous demeanor during the interrogation only heightened their suspicions. Detective Wandel pressed her for more details, but Cassidy maintained her innocence, insisting that she had nothing to do with Deanna's death. Despite her denials, Cassidy's connection to the victim and the strained nature of their relationship made her a key suspect in the investigation. The detectives knew they needed to dig deeper into Cassidy's story to either confirm or rule out her involvement in the crime. The next person under scrutiny was Ryan Andrews, Deanna's 36-year-old husband. As a corporate lawyer specializing in helping retail companies find loopholes to take people's land in third-world countries for opening stores, Ryan had a demanding career that often kept him away from home. He worked long hours, frequently traveling for business meetings and court appearances. In the close-knit community of Leavenworth, he was known for his professional success, but also for his distant, somewhat aloof demeanor. Unlike Deanna, who was actively involved in the community, Ryan kept mostly to himself, focusing on his career and leaving Deanna to manage their home and raise their three children, Carlin, Castle, and Kingsley. Ryan's relationship with Deanna had been strained for some time. The couple, once seen as the perfect pair, had grown apart over the years. Friends and neighbors noticed the shift. They no longer attended events together, and when they did, there was an obvious tension between them. Deanna had confided in a few close friends that she felt neglected and lonely in her sexless marriage. She had mentioned how Ryan's constant absences had made her feel more like a single parent than a partner in their relationship. On the night of Deanna's murder, Ryan claimed he had been working overnight at his office in downtown Kansas City. He told the detectives that he hadn't noticed anything unusual when he returned home early the next morning, only to find Deanna's lifeless body. Detective Alda Wandel and her team were interested in Ryan's alibi and his reaction to finding his wife dead. They questioned him thoroughly, trying to gauge whether his grief was genuine or if it masked something darker. During the interrogation, Ryan remained calm and composed, answering questions in a measured tone. He expressed deep sorrow over Deanna's death, but there was a detachment in his demeanor that the detectives found unsettling. He admitted that he and Deanna had been having marital problems but insisted that he still loved her and would never have harmed her. However, the detectives couldn't ignore the possibility that Ryan's strained marriage and Deanna's affair with their neighbor's daughter, Cassidy Morris, could have provided a motive for murder. When pressed about his whereabouts on the night of the murder, Ryan was adamant that he had been at work, presenting time-stamped emails and phone records as proof. While his alibi seemed solid, the detectives were not entirely convinced. They noted that Ryan's profession gave him the skills and resources to potentially cover his tracks if he were involved in the crime. Despite his calm demeanor, Ryan's strained marriage and the coldness in his relationship with Deanna kept him firmly in the spotlight of the investigation. The detectives knew they had to keep a close eye on him as they continued to piece together the events leading up to Deanna's death. The third suspect in the investigation was Destiny Morris, Cassidy's 42-year-old mother. Destiny was a single mother who worked long hours as a stripper not far from the state capitol building in Topeka. She was known for her dedication to her job, often working double shifts to make ends meet and provide for Cassidy. Despite her busy schedule, Destiny had a reputation for being a strong, no-nonsense woman who cared deeply for her daughter. Destiny and Deanna Andrews had been friends for several years. Their friendship was initially built on shared experiences as mothers and homemakers. However, as time passed, Destiny began to notice changes in her daughter's behavior. Cassidy had become more secretive, and her once close relationship with her mother seemed to be slipping away. Destiny suspected that something was going on between Cassidy and Deanna, but she wasn't sure what. A few days before Deanna's murder, Destiny confronted Deanna about her suspicions. The two had a heated argument in Deanna's driveway, where Destiny demanded that Deanna stop having sex with her daughter. Destiny was protective of Cassidy and didn't like the idea of her daughter being involved in anything that could harm her future. The confrontation left both women angry, and Destiny left the encounter feeling uneasy. When Detective Olga Wandel and her team brought Destiny in for questioning, they were aware of the argument she had with Deanna. The detectives asked Destiny about her relationship with Deanna and why she had confronted her. Destiny, who was usually composed, showed signs of stress during the interrogation. She admitted that she had argued with Deanna but denied having anything to do with her death. She explained that she was concerned about Cassidy's well-being and only wanted to protect her daughter from getting hurt. The detectives pressed Destiny about her whereabouts on the night of the murder. Destiny stated that she had been working a night shift and had clocked out just before midnight. She provided time-stamped records to support her alibi. Despite her strong alibi, the detectives couldn't ignore the intensity of the argument she'd had with Deanna and the fact that she lived so close to the crime scene. Destiny's protective nature and her proximity to the Andrews home kept her on the detectives' radar. They continued to investigate her involvement, looking for any possible link between her argument with Deanna and the events that led to Deanna's murder. While Destiny maintained her innocence, the detectives knew they couldn't rule her out just yet. The investigation into Deanna's death was far from over, and Destiny's role in the case remained a critical piece of the puzzle. On September 12, 2018, just as the summer heat began to fade over Leavenworth, Kansas, a breakthrough in the case emerged. It was mid-morning, around 10 a.m., when Detective Olga Wandel received a call from a technician at a local electronics repair shop, Tech Fix, located on Main Street. The technician had been working on a malfunctioning home security system brought in by a customer when he stumbled upon something unusual: several hidden video files stored within the system's memory. These files contained footage that had been recorded in the Andrews home, specifically in the master bedroom where Deanna Andrews' body had been found. The technician, realizing the significance of what he had discovered, immediately contacted the police. Detective Wandel and her team quickly arrived at Tech Fix to review the footage. The videos, which were dated over several months leading up to the murder, provided chilling evidence. The recordings revealed Deanna engaging in a sex relationship with Cassidy Morris. What was more disturbing, however, was that it became clear Deanna had been the one secretly filming their sexual encounters, likely without Cassidy's knowledge. The videos not only confirmed the illicit affair but also showed the increasing tension between Deanna and Cassidy. In one of the final recordings, made just days before the murder, Deanna could be heard threatening to expose their relationship if Cassidy tried to leave her. The footage painted a picture of a sexual relationship that had turned toxic, with Deanna growing more possessive and Cassidy appearing increasingly fearful. This new evidence was a turning point in the investigation. The detectives realized that Deanna's murder wasn't just a crime of passion. It was the tragic result of a relationship that had spiraled out of control. The footage also provided crucial insight into Cassidy's state of mind leading up to the murder, suggesting that she may have acted out of fear and desperation. With this new evidence in hand, Detective Wandel and her team returned to the Andrews home to search for the hidden cameras that had captured the footage. They found several small, discreet devices placed around the bedroom, further confirming Deanna's role in recording the videos. This discovery significantly shifted the direction of the investigation. The detectives now had a clearer understanding of the dynamics at play and began focusing more on Cassidy's involvement, leading them closer to the truth about what happened on the night of Deanna Andrews' death. As the investigation reached its climax, all eyes were on Cassidy Morris. The hidden footage discovered in Deanna Andrews' home provided the detectives with critical evidence that pointed directly to her. On September 14, 2018, Detective Olga Wandel and her team finally felt they had enough to make an arrest. Cassidy Morris, just 18 years old, was a popular high school senior who had once been full of promise. Known for her outgoing personality and academic achievements, Cassidy was the kind of girl who seemed to have it all. But behind closed doors, she was trapped in a toxic and secretive sexual relationship with Deanna, a relationship that had spiraled out of control. Cassidy's once bright future had dimmed under the weight of Deanna's controlling manipulation and possessiveness. On the night of Deanna's murder, the tension between the two reached a breaking point. The hidden footage showed Deanna threatening to reveal their sexual relationship via sex tapes she had recorded if Cassidy ever tried to leave her. This threat was the final straw for Cassidy, who felt cornered and terrified. In a moment of panic and desperation, Cassidy grabbed the gun from Deanna's nightstand and shot her. The crime scene, with its overturned furniture and broken glass, told the story of a fierce struggle that had ended in tragedy. Detective Wandel, now confident in her case, moved quickly. At 8 p.m. on September 19, the police arrived at the Morris home. Cassidy was inside, sitting on the living room couch with her mother, Destiny. The officers calmly explained the situation, and placed Cassidy under arrest for the murder of Deanna Andrews. Cassidy, visibly shaken, didn't resist. She seemed almost relieved, as if the weight of her secret was finally being lifted. Destiny, on the other hand, was in shock. She had no idea that her daughter had been involved in such a dangerous relationship, and the reality of the situation left her speechless. The arrest sent shockwaves through the community. Deanna's family, especially her husband Ryan and their 3 children, were devastated by the news. Ryan had suspected that something was wrong in his marriage, but he never imagined it would end in such a horrific way. The Andrews family, once seen as the epitome of suburban success, was now shattered. In the days that followed, more details about the toxic sexual relationship between Deanna and Cassidy came to light, painting a complex picture of emotional abuse and desperation. The community, which had initially seen Cassidy as a promising young woman, began to view her actions through a different lens, one that took into account the psychological torment she had endured. Cassidy's arrest marked the beginning of a long legal process, one that would force everyone involved to confront the dark truths that had been hidden beneath the surface of their seemingly perfect lives. The trial of Cassidy Morris began in late November 2019, capturing the attention of the entire Leavenworth, Kansas community. The courtroom was packed with spectators and media, all eager to see how the case would unfold. The prosecution, led by District Attorney Brian Chung, a 50-year-old seasoned lawyer with a reputation for being tough but fair, argued that Cassidy had committed cold-blooded murder. Chung painted a picture of Cassidy as a manipulative young woman who, when faced with the possibility of losing control over her secret affair with Deanna Andrews, chose to end Deanna's life rather than face the consequences. On the other side, Cassidy's defense attorney, Lisa Martell, a 38-year-old known for her passionate advocacy for young clients, took a different approach. Martell argued that Cassidy was a victim of Deanna's emotional and psychological manipulation. She presented evidence from the hidden videos, showing how Deanna had increasingly pressured and threatened Cassidy, driving her to the brink of despair. Martell contended that Cassidy's actions, while tragic, were the result of intense fear and a sense of having no way out. She pleaded with the jury to consider the torment Cassidy had endured in the months leading up to the murder. The trial was emotionally charged, especially for Deanna's family, who sat in the courtroom every day, listening to the details of Deanna's secret life and the events that led to her death. Ryan Andrews, in particular, was visibly shaken as he heard testimony about his wife's affair and the manipulative behavior she had displayed toward Cassidy. The triplets, too young to fully understand the proceedings, were kept away from the trial, their lives now forever changed by the loss of their mother. After several days of testimony and arguments, the jury reached a verdict. On November 29, 2018, Cassidy Morris was found guilty of manslaughter, not murder. The jury, influenced by the evidence of Deanna's manipulation and Cassidy's psychological state, chose to convict her on a lesser charge. The judge sentenced Cassidy to 10 years in prison, with the possibility of parole after 5 years. The sentence was met with mixed reactions. Deanna's family felt the punishment was too lenient, struggling to reconcile the woman they knew with the secret life that had led to her death. Meanwhile, some in the community sympathized with Cassidy, recognizing the difficult circumstances that had driven her to commit the crime. The trial's conclusion left many in Leavenworth reflecting on the hidden struggles that can exist behind closed doors and the tragic consequences they can bring. In the aftermath of the trial, the lives of everyone involved were profoundly changed. Cassidy Morris began serving her sentence at a correctional center in Leavenworth, Kansas, not far from her house. At just 18 years old, her life had taken a tragic turn. Inside prison, Cassidy enrolled in counseling and educational programs, trying to rebuild her life from the ruins of what it had become. Her once bright future, full of promise, now seemed uncertain as she faced the consequences of her actions. Deanna Andrews' family struggled to move on from the tragedy that had torn their lives apart. Ryan Andrews, who had once been a successful corporate lawyer, found it difficult to return to his high-powered career. The revelation of his wife's secret affair and the circumstances surrounding her death had left him shattered. He took a leave of absence from his job, choosing instead to focus on raising his children, Carlin, Castle, and Kingley. The triplets, just 9 years old, had lost their mother in the most horrific way. Ryan did his best to shield them from the details of the case, but the emotional scars ran deep. Destiny Morris, Cassidy's mother, also faced an uphill battle. who had always worked long hours to provide for her daughter, Destiny was consumed with guilt, wondering how she could have missed the signs of her daughter's distress. She continued to support Cassidy throughout her incarceration, visiting her regularly and advocating for her early release. The Leavenworth community, once close-knit and conservative, was left in shock by the events that had unfolded in their quiet suburb. Deanna Andrews' death and the trial that followed became a cautionary tale, a reminder that even in the most seemingly perfect neighborhoods, dark secrets could be lurking beneath the surface. Friends and neighbors who had once admired the Andrews family now looked at their own lives, questioning what might be hidden behind their own closed doors. Life in Leavenworth slowly returned to normal, but the memory of Deanna's tragic death and the trial that followed would never fully fade. It served as a grim reminder of the hidden pain and desperation that can lead to unimaginable consequences.